Friends, this is our second release on implementation of e-invoice to bring before you all the issues and queries which we have faced on implementation of e-invoices in those companies where the turnover is more than 500 crores. So let us just recapitulate. As you see on your screen, in e-invoices, you continue to generate the invoices as you are doing currently in your ERP system. However, as per notification 60/2020, you have to put in certain extra fields as per the schema. Now you generate a JSON file or CSV file. Convert the CSV file to JSON file if it is not in the JSON format. Upload this JSON file into the IRP portal. This you can do with the help of a GSP solution also. The GSP does validation checks and pushes it to the IRP. The IRP does four things. It does a deduplication check. It encrypts the JSON file, which is called digitally signing of the JSON file by the IRP. It generates an IRN and it signs and puts a QR code on the e-invoice and pushes back this JSON file, and this JSON file, when converted into your ERP, provides you the e-invoice. This whole process can be done by means of an API integration, whereby it happens seamlessly within a matter of 10 to 12 seconds, or it can be done with the help of manual uploading into the IRP. So now this is the background of e-invoicing, and the critical issues in e-invoicing we will discuss one by one, slowly and steadily. Friends, the most important thing to be done today, I had said in the last video, is to do a user training. Along with this, as per rule 48, any person who is liable to generate an e-invoice, if he is your supplier and he provides you an invoice which is not an e-invoice, then possibly tomorrow the department may contend the ITC availed as per that invoice, because it does not remain a valid invoice. Therefore, as you can see on your screen, you must shoot the mails to your suppliers and take from them a declaration that they are not falling within e-invoices, or if they are falling within e-invoices, then they have to be clearly specified that if from 1st October they do not provide an e-invoice, then the payment will be processed only on provision of e-invoice and not before that. This safeguards the input tax credit availed by you as a recipient on purchase of goods or services from such suppliers. The biggest issue today across the country is not on e-invoicing actually. It is on the QR code generation as per notification number 14/2020 for B2C invoices. Friends, 2 days back, the GST network has come out with an advisory, and possibly now this issue is close to resolution. The dynamic QR code which have to be published on your your B2C invoices should be made available to the buyer through a digital display, right? And that will be deemed to be the QR code. It is only for encouragement of digital payments. and is nowhere linked to an e-invoice. This is the FAQ which was published by the GST network. So now the advisory clarifies that this dynamic QR code is only for facilitation of digital payment, and it has to have the bank details of the supplier of such B2C goods or services. It has to be provided by the supplier himself. It will not be generated by the IRP, and it should have the bank account details. The question now remains that if it will have only bank account details, how will it be dynamic? That also has been answered in the advisory, that normally when you scan and pay through Paytm or through UPI app, then you have to manually enter the amount to be paid. This QR code which is notified has to have the dynamic amount to be paid also, and that is why it is dynamic. So it has to have the bank account details, it has to automatically have the amount to be paid, so that the B2C consumer, he scans the QR code and he pays the amount seamlessly. If you remember, in income tax, section 269 SU was also introduced to encourage digital payments. GST and income tax, now slowly they are getting integrated and moving towards the same goal of encouraging the digital payments. Friends, this QR code is separate from B2B invoices QR code, because this QR code is provided by the supplier himself. However, B2B QR code will be provided by the IRP. This QR code will have the bank account details and the amount to be paid, whereas the B2B QR code, which will be provided by the IRP, will have 8 particulars: GSTIN of the supplier, GSTIN of the recipient, the IRN number, the amount number of line items, the HSN code of the amount, the item which is the highest value, the invoice number, invoice date, invoice value, and all these kind of 8 particulars which is available on your screen, which is appended to this video. So there is a lot of difference between B2B QR code and B2C invoices QR code, and actions should be taken separately by the taxpayer for generation of B2C QR code. B2B automatically will be provided by the IRP, either by API or by manual updation, whatever the case might be. Right? So I suppose I have clarified sufficiently this QR code issue. Now, another issue is, some taxpayers say that, gentlemen, when generating the invoice, it shows as a receivable. So how do I generate the QR code for B2C invoices? Well, this QR code has no link to receivable or advance payment or set off against receivable with advance payment. Maybe you have received a advance for the B2C transaction and now you generate a QR code. Therefore, this set off between the advance and the B2C receivable also has to be done by the ERP. In this transaction, there is no use of the QR code. However, because it is specified by notification 14/2020, the QR code has to be provided on the invoice to encourage digital payments. The next issue is it mandatory for the taxpayer also to sign the e-invoice in addition to the government's digital signature or encryption? Answer is yes. The taxpayer has to sign either digitally or manually. Next is that what happens when we are the recipients of goods or services? Do we as recipient of goods or services need to capture the IRN number of the supplier's B2B invoices? Well, there is no requirement of capturing such IRN number of the supplier in your ERP solutions, because today there is no requirement of doing a GSTR 2A versus purchase register mapping on the basis of IRN. Even the GSTR 2A, as of now at least, will not have the IRN. So initially, there may be, if required, the company may have a provision for capturing the IRN of the suppliers. However, let us not complicate matters at this point of time when IRN generation and e-invoice implementation itself is a hurdle which we have to face. Provision can be there for capturing the supplier's IRN, and at a future date maybe one can start capturing the supplier's IRN also. Next issue is, what should be the maximum time limit between generation of invoice as per ERP and invoice on the IRP? Well, there is no time limit specified by the government. There was a time limit of 24 hours which was provided initially, but now they have withdrawn such a restriction. However, a company-wise SOP may be built in. Possibly 1 week's time would be sufficient for generation of an e-invoice after punching in the invoice in your ERP. The next question comes, can we generate a invoice of a further serial number, of a future serial number, and not the current serial number? That is, if you have punched in say 5 invoices, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, can we generate the e-invoice of invoice number 5 before generation of invoice number 1? Answer is yes. One can do that, because IRP will not check serial numbers. It will only check whether the invoice number and the document type is unique for a period for a particular taxpayer or not. However, serial number is a requirement of the GST law, right? It is a requirement of Rule 46 for control over the supplies. So it has to be complied with accordingly. Next query is whether e-invoice is required for commercial debit note, commercial credit note, branch transfer intrastate, or on the delivery challans. The answer is no. E-invoice is only required for tax invoices, GST credit note, debit note, export invoices. That is it. It is not required for commercial credit note, debit note. In fact, commercial credit note, debit note, etc. may not at all be reported in the GST portal also, because they are out of GST. Next query is whether on the IRP within 24 hours you can amend a particular invoice, that is e-invoice. The answer is no. You can only cancel an invoice on the IRP, no option of amendment on the IRP as per our understanding is available as of now. If the amendment of an invoice has to be done, it has to be done on the GSTR 1 table number 9 only, and that also can be done only once, right, as per the requirements of the GST portal. The next question is, if it is mandatory to generate part A of waybill along with the e-invoice, then what do we do in case the customer generates the e-waybill? The answer is there is no requirement or there is no mandatory requirement to generate the e-way bill also. It is an option. If you do not want to generate the part A of e-way bill also with the e-invoice, then you should not fill up the corresponding table of the schema in the e-invoice. Then no part A of the e-way bill will be generated also. Whether e-invoice is required for RCM invoices? Well, if you see the rules, RCM self-invoice is also a credit taken document. Therefore, if you see the GST rules, then it is evident that e-invoice is required for RCM invoices also. However, the IRP may block it because in case of RCM invoices, the GSTIN of the recipient and the supplier are the same, and therefore the IRP may block it, and hence it is said that for RCM, e-invoice is not required. For ISD, is it required? Answer is yes, it is required for ISD invoices as of now. Friends, the last query, if you see on the screen, is whether it is required to do a reconciliation between e-invoice and e-way bill. Answer is yes. The assessing authorities would certainly want a reconciliation between e-invoice and e-way bill, and that is why we have always been saying that it is important to have an integrated solution, so that not only e-invoice versus e-way bill, even GSTR1 versus e-invoice versus e-way bill, and so many other reconciliations would be required by assessing authorities going forward. And that is why it is important that such reconciliation and big data analytics and artificial intelligence embedded tools should be taken care of while dealing with the GST law, especially the larger sector of taxpayers whose businesses are so complicated that handling data is an issue. Thank you very much for a patient hearing.